Welcome to the Draw Shop's Get Genius podcast, where we talk to today's business influencers to pick their brain and pull out their genius. It's time to get genius.
Oh, listeners, I hope you are ready. Today's show is awesome, and I'm going to tell you right now that you have to listen until the very end. You have to, because if you don't, then you're going to miss out on the very best part of the show. All of it is awesome, the build up to it and everything, but the end is so rad. Our guest today is InQ, which stands for In Question. And InQ is a National Poetry Slam champion and multi-platinum winning songwriter. Yeah. His groundbreaking performances include selling out the largest one-man poetry show in Los Angeles history, being the first spoken word artist to perform with Cirque du Soleil, and being featured on HBO's Def Poetry Jam and ESPN's World Series of Poker. He makes these incredible videos, like one called The Only Reason We're Alive. You have to watch it. We'll make sure we have a link to that in our blog post. And another one called The Most Important Vote We'll Ever Cast. And these, like most of his videos, went viral and have like over 6 million views combined. It's crazy. We actually had the pleasure of doing one of his poems and turning it into a whiteboard video. So we'll look out for that link as well in our blog post. You probably know the song by Selena Gomez, Love You Like a Love Song. He wrote that song, and it actually won him a BMI award, which was so amazing. He's also written with other artists, including Miley Cyrus, Mike Posner, Foster the People. He also co-wrote the official 2014 Coca-Cola FIFA World Cup anthem and was most recently featured on Good Life. And he just does, as you can tell, I'm just going on and on. He obviously just does all these kind of crazy cool things, and just watch these videos, watch how he just freaking commands an audience's attention like no other. It's just, he's so immersive, and everything that he says is like, oh my gosh. It's just so powerful, and it's very impressive how he does this. Yes, he says everybody is a poet and can do this in terms of telling a story. I'm trying really hard to believe that I have any part of me that can do that, because he's just so freaking genius with this. So I'm just excited for you guys to hear this interview. I'm excited for you guys to hear the end of the interview. He's just in so many incredible things, and we're going to talk about things like, your own story and what it is that you have to share, and how you can do that. So many of us think we're not interesting, but we are. We all have something, and he'll be a little bit more convincing on that than I am. So have a really good listen to this interview. So many little genius bits in there that we'll highlight for you in the blog as well. And please visit his website. We'll tell you what that is. We've got that in the show notes and in the blog post. His videos are just incredible. I'm just telling you, you're going to see why they go viral, and I'm just listen. Hello, InQ, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
So excited to be talking to you. It's like the coolest thing ever. I remember the first time I saw you was at Archangel. I think it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And you got up on stage. I had no idea what to expect. And suddenly I was more immersed than I could ever remember. And it was just chills, goosebumps, laughing, crying, just an incredible experience with you. So thank you for that, and for everything that you contribute and all that you do. I think it's just so important. I'm so excited that our listeners get to hear you today.
Thank you so much. I feel like we should just end the podcast there. That was great.
And done.
Go downhill, guys.
So I just want to like dive in right now because what you do is so unique. How did this even come about? You're a poet, songwriter, you're a rapper. Like, how did this all come together?
Well, I started out rapping when I was 13. I absolutely fell in love with hip hop and just became obsessed. And then when I was 19 years old, I wound up at an open mic for poets in Los Angeles called the Poetry Lounge, which turned out to be one of the biggest open mics in the country. I mean, they've gotten 350 people a week every Tuesday night for years. And it was just a great community. And I started going and putting up my rapping a cappella. And over the years, I just ended up becoming more of a poet than a rapper. And from there, I ended up getting a publishing deal to write songs for other artists. And then very consciously got myself back into poetry. And now I get to kind of travel around the country and the world performing for people. And it's an absolute blessing.
So amazing what you do. And I think what's really cool about your story, if you'll share with us, is some of the things you've overcome and how you turned it into something where you could actually give back and actually embrace this power that you have. I think there's so many, we hear a lot of this in the world of entrepreneurship and artists that, you know, you can take hard moments, you can take failures from the past, heartache and all of that, and to turn it to something awesome. But when you're actually faced with it, it's so much harder to do. It's easy to get motivated when you see somebody else doing it. But how do you do that yourself?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
So I think, you know, like people get so inspired when they see stories of people taking something hard from the past and turning it into something good. And I think it's so easy to get inspired. Like you watch a movie and you watch the story of the transformation and it's like, oh, it's so exciting and you get inspired. But when you're really, really in it, sometimes it's like unfathomable that you can even do anything to turn it around. How have you done that in the past?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I've had an extremely rough past, or that's not even true. What I would say is that I made my past more difficult than it actually was. I mean, I definitely went through different things, and yet, you know, I literally got back from Kenya 2 days ago, and I spent, I think, about 2 weeks there, and before that, I was in South Africa, and before that, I was in Dubai. And I mean, I've traveled all around the world, and you know, the main thing that I've seen is just basically like massive, massive amounts of inequality.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that it's like love, but actually, it's just massive amounts of inequality.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel like I had it so difficult. I feel like everybody has things that they have to overcome, and everybody's circumstances are valid. But in looking back and having the perspective that I do now, I was very, very lucky. And I found an art form that I fell in love with that gave me an opportunity to express and to have an outlet for whatever pain I was going through. And I was able to alchemize it, and I still kind of use that process today.
How often are you coming up with new material?
You know, it varies. If I have an assignment, you know, that I'm aligned with, you know, I'm doing a collaboration with somebody, which is rare. I don't take very many of those on because I feel like even if you find inspiration within an assignment, it's different than pure inspiration. Mm-hmm. You do too many assignments, you can kind of lose your voice. And I'm not interested in being like a poet for hire. I'm more interested in just being an artist and then occasionally doing collaborations. But if I do have an assignment that I'm aligned with, then I'll set aside time to do it. And it would be something that I would write anyway. And I give the space for the creativity to come through. But if I don't, and it's just me, I wait until I have something to say. You know, I put in my 10,000 hours a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I've just been in this game like 20 years, and for better or worse, I was obsessed for most of it. And so I like forced myself to write, or I couldn't even help it, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not in that stage anymore. I'm in the stage where I wait until I have something to say. and then I say it. And I basically will write until I've reached a point where I don't know what I want to say yet. And then I let it go for a while. And if I live enough, then eventually the inspiration will come through and the piece will write itself.
I love it. If you live enough. So once that inspiration hits, like what does it look like when you sit down to write? Are you recording it with your voice? Are you writing it out? Like, do you have a process that you go through once you're like, okay, I'm inspired and I'm going to turn this into something now?
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't even know if I answered your question. The reason why I didn't specifically answer is because there's no real schedule to it. But I was writing something actually right before we jumped on. And it started 2 days ago, and I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. But I don't really write from a place of like, I have to get all of this out. It's not like that. So when I say it's been 2 days, it's just kind of been in my mind and in my heart for like 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like collecting information or just like awareness of how I feel about this particular subject. And this one came from a conversation I was having with somebody, where I was basically saying that like sometimes I miss my sadness, like that I get so sad without it.
Why? Like, what do you mean?
Well, because I mean I don't really have very much sadness anymore. I've like basically like alchemized a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, but it was with me for a very long time, and I would hide it behind kind of like anger, and I'd hide it behind happiness, but it was really just like unresolved emotion that was like trapped in my body based on things I had experienced in the past that I wasn't able to process through. And so I was just like chatting with my friend about that, and I thought that was an interesting concept, that like when you're so used to something being with you, when it leaves you, even if it wasn't good to have around, you miss it.
Yeah.
So it was like sometimes I miss my sadness. And it makes me sad without it, which is just a hilarious statement. So I started writing this piece about that. And it's really a metaphor for society and humanity in general not being able to acknowledge sadness, looking at sadness and vulnerability as weakness rather than strength. And if you look at like a baby, for example, like the baby will just feel all the emotions that it has. So if it gets sad, the sadness will just like flow through the baby like rain, and then it'll like notice something else, and then it'll be happy or, get angry, but it keeps moving into the next moment. And then as we become conscious of ourselves, we start holding on to our emotions because we don't want people to see them.
Right.
Or we don't know how to process them ourselves. And then it kind of traps them inside of us and causes more problems, and it seeps out in other ways. So that's really like what the piece is about. And then it just, I don't know, started to come out. So I just get out of the way.
It's interesting too, because I know you'll talk a lot about connection and how people are craving that, and yet they're kind of in their own way and doing things like maybe not on purpose, but at the same time on purpose to not connect. What do you think that's all about? Like, it just seems like you've said this and it's so true. People crave connection, and so many bad things come from not having and not feeling that connection with someone else or themselves.
Yeah, but connection is scary too.
Yeah.
And there's actually a lot of bad things, I mean, in quotation marks, that come from connection, and that's why people are scared of it. But it's always worth it, in my opinion. It's always worth it to connect. And if you don't take your emotions so seriously, and you don't take the lessons that you're experiencing so seriously, then it can kind of be a ride.
Yeah.
And you can throw your hands up and enjoy, all of the highs and all of the lows, and you can kind of stay in the center, even when you're on that ride. And I'm talking to myself too. I'm certainly not above that, and I choose to reapply that to my life every single day.
So I remember, I think I didn't get to participate in this, but somebody had told me about it. And I think it might have been at Summit where you did a workshop on storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And like so many people that I know who went to it afterwards were just like so blown away by their experience with it.
Awesome.
Can you share with us what you did with
Um,
everyone?
I'm not going to give away my trade.
Ah, dang it.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I just think that when you provide, I mean, I'm not sure which one you're referring to. We
So
did.
I think it had something to do with like I think it was maybe like recreating the stories that they had for themselves.
Yeah, I think that everybody is a poet. That's just my belief. I think that every single person is a poet and every single person has a story to tell. And I think that that's what the world needs most right now is people telling their stories because when you tell your story, it makes other people feel less alone and it creates empathy. And the world needs empathy right now. And it needs us seeing behind the ideologies and the differences to the things that connect us, which is our human experience. And so when I get a chance to do a workshop, I just basically provide people with the space and hopefully the inspiration to share something that's meaningful to them. And I do a few poems to set the stage, and then I give them a prompt where they can write on something themselves. And that sounds fucking horrible, to be honest. I mean, most people that like come to these workshops, either they're really into it or they're like, I don't want to do that. That sounds like homework. But it winds up being the most incredible experience because people really are starving to express themselves in new ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you give someone the space and the permission to do it, and you come from a place of celebrating their story, no matter what it is that they say, people are willing to fly. And, when you give them room to fly and there's no ceiling, they will go very, very high. And they will really support each other in expressing whatever it is that they have to express. So people have kind of transformational experiences, and I don't take any credit for that. It's just basically providing a space for them to transform themselves.
I think it's so important that people, include themselves, their stories, right, within their businesses and their marketing because it makes people feel more connected to them. But there are people that struggle with that because it's either they feel it's too personal or they're worried about being judged when they finally tell a story, or sometimes they think they're just downright not interesting enough. So
everybody's interesting.
Yeah. But you could say that how do you help bring that out in one of these workshops or just in one of somebody listening to you, like where they actually go, oh wait, this that has happened in my life or this human experience that I've had is actually interesting. What are like the prompts, I guess?
They just have to choose things that are like meaningful to them. That's really it. I mean, that's how I write too. The poem that I was talking about earlier, I'm only writing it because it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's something that moved me in conversation. I paid attention and I wrote it down, and then the poem started to kind of come to the surface. And that's what you have to do as a writer, is just like pay attention to the things that move you. And if you're not like a writer on a regular basis, it doesn't change the formula. You just have to think of something in your life that was painful or difficult or joyous, something that really like moved you. And if you write about that thing, it will take on a life of its own. I think that those memories want to get out, and they want to be shared. Look, being in Kenya, I was like around this tribe called the Samburu tribe, and like basically they've had the same culture for 450 years, and they have various things going on in their culture that I don't agree with, but they are a beautiful, beautiful people. And one of the things is that they are a part of the land. They are like a part of the ecology. And I don't know, people in cities, we basically like remove ourselves from the ecology. We remove ourselves from nature. We make ourselves better than nature, and being with these tribes people and looking at their communities, how beautiful their communities are and how much they rely on each other. In America, communities have almost disintegrated for the most part. And now we have these like echo chambers where we're like basically only connected to people who feel the exact same way as us. And we're never like listening to people who feel any different way. And the election is a primary example of that. And communities are important that have all sorts of different opinions and feelings. And I guess my point is that's like in many ways put too much pressure on like the family environment.
Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of the family environments are collapsing. It's because of community. And I think community comes from shared storytelling. And so pick something that's meaningful to you and share it with somebody that you want to get close to or somebody that you're already close to, and you'll get closer to them. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question. I'm just kind of talking shit.
No, it does. No, I love it. Do you have before you perform or speak in front of people, is there any kind of a ritual or something that you go through beforehand, or is there an not expected, but an intention that you have?
No, not really. I mean, I have a ritual. I meditate twice a day. I've been doing that for over a year. I think quickly approaching a year and a half, and I haven't missed one. And that definitely puts me in a nice state. I have different things that I do in my life, but I feel like if I do those things in my life, then wherever I'm performing and whenever I'm performing, I can just move into that state. There's no specific intention I have, because then I think I'm trying to control it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to try to control the outcome of a performance. My hope is that people are able to connect and do whatever it is they want to do with the material. And other than that, I think it's none of my business.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. I just wonder, people will go out with the intention to, whether it's persuade or somehow have some type of influence. And I wonder because, I interview a lot of entrepreneurs that are speakers, and there's always that, what's the call to action? What is it that they're going to walk away with and do? So, and because you're doing something that's different, but it is inspiring. I just wondered, is there something that you're trying to influence?
I have no agenda.
Yeah.
And I have no call to action, because I actually think that whoever it is that is listening will find their own call to action.
Right.
And I think it's presumptuous for me to put that on my audience. I really, it's just a reflection of my experiences in my life. And I think that in that, I'm mirroring the human condition. And then in that, whatever people see is what they're supposed to see. Mm-hmm. I mean, who am I to tell anybody anything about their life? But I can tell them about mine, and hopefully in telling them about mine, they can see themselves.
Yeah, exactly. What are some of your favorite books, and who are some of your favorite thought leaders?
Well, I'm looking at Homo Deus. You know Homo Deus?
No.
That's the sequel to Sapiens.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right. It's Homo Deus. Anyway, yeah, I'm reading this book right now. Even though I can't pronounce the name, I can read, and it's a very good book. And Sapiens was an incredible book. It really, really affected kind of how I view the world. And so that's the thing that I'm reading presently.
Okay.
Oh, you know what else I'm reading? Is Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm only 40 pages in, but it's really fascinating. He's a really, really interesting guy. He's very smart. He's really talented, and he came from a very specific environment. and was able to work his way out and basically like come into the light by being the light.
Yeah.
He's a really, really awesome person. And so I'm like interested in reading his book, and being that I was just in South Africa as well, it partially was inspired by that, because I went and visited Robben Island where Mandela was in prison. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's a trip.
So how often are you traveling, by the way? All the time?
I'd say like 50 to 60% of the time. But I'd say probably more 50. Yeah, I think 60 is a bit too much. And I think if it gets to 70, I'll just start saying no.
So what are some of your favorite experiences, traveling and performing? Like, are there any that stick out for you?
Are there any that stick out? I mean, I could just talk to you about the ones that I just went on. And yeah, like I said, I was in Dubai, which is an amazing, amazing place. People kind of say Dubai is like the, I don't know, Vegas of the Middle East. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that experience. I've gone twice this year, and I have a great crew there, like a really good community. And I think, like anywhere, whether or not you enjoy a place is based on the people that you're with.
Yeah.
And there's like some local people that I know that are just absolutely incredible. And so I got a chance to like experience Dubai from what their artist culture is like. And so that was really, really awesome. And the shows that I did there were really great as well. And then I had 3 shows in Johannesburg, and that was incredible. And it was my birthday while I was there, which was really cool. People that were hosting me took really good care of me and showed me around the city. And, people, I guess, judge Johannesburg as being a dangerous place as well, which, I'm sure it can be, but that's not what I experienced either. I love the spirit of the people. And then going to Cape Town was unbelievable. And I saw penguins, and everywhere I go, I basically will travel around it, because I feel like that's a huge part of my inspiration, is seeing the world and getting outside of my comfort zone, and breaking out of the box and moving the mirror. All of that stuff is what is going to help me to have a different perspective that I'm going to want to write on.
Right.
And I think it just makes me more of a well-rounded person. So like I'll always like create trips around trips. So Johannesburg then turned into Cape Town and turned into Kenya. And now I'm back, and I'm here for about a week, and then I start traveling again. And we have a show on Friday that sold out in LA, so I'm excited about that. And lots of fun things coming up. So yeah.
Do you ever get nervous ever anymore, or have you ever when you first began?
Yeah, I mean, I used to get nervous all the time. I think that as your experiences grow, the things that make you nervous change. Mm-hmm. I think part of it is personal stakes. So if I have a real, I guess expectation is the word, even though I don't like to have an expectation because it's too easy to get disappointed. But if I have like an intention for something and I have stakes on that intention, then there are some moments where I definitely get nervous before things. I was actually nervous to perform in Kenya because I was so humbled and inspired by the environment. I mean, you're literally like 5 feet away from giraffes and elephants, and a rhinoceros ran at our car,
Wow.
charged at our car, and we saw lions. And I mean, just really, I could just go on, and then being with some of the tribesmen and getting to know them. And I was just really humbled and inspired. And I had a few opportunities to perform there for different people, but I was nervous because I didn't feel like I had anything to say. I just felt like I was so blown away by what was going on that instead of speaking, I needed to listen. And so that was a situation where I got nervous.
Yeah.
Because, You know, like I said, I was just kind of humbled and inspired. Yeah. And I used to get nervous a lot, but you just kind of work your way through it. It's like building a muscle.
Right.
Yeah.
So you travel a ton. You pretty much get to go out there and rock what you're so awesome doing and so passionate about. But there has to be like an operation behind NQ to like keep everything rolling and scheduled and going and all of that. What kind of team do you have behind you?
I have a great management team. I have a main manager, and then I have a day-to-day manager. This guy Kevin Heckmet, he's incredible.
Love
and
Kevin.
Golly, and I have an assistant, which is awesome, and makes my life very easy. And then I have a great lawyer. I'm not gonna like name everybody's names.
No.
Lawyer. I have like a production company that I have like a publishing deal with. So I have like a production house that I can go in and write songs with, and then I have a publishing deal with a company, and then we have different events that we do. So we have PR, we have somebody that's starting to do social media stuff, and production teams that we're working on. We have a major event coming up that I'm not going to announce just yet, but we will very soon. And so yeah, it's just making sure that we're dealing with really world-class people. I think it's very easy for people to view poetry as a niche art form, and I don't see it as that. I see it as an art form that is really important for this modern day. Politically, socially, for people to let their voices be heard. And I think that it's just waiting for the right platform to really blow it up in popular culture.
Yeah, I agree. It's really incredible how just the rhythm, the words, all of it people just really immerse themselves into it instead of hearing, there's just such a difference. There's just such a difference in like listening to you talk about something than if somebody just were to go up and give a talk. Not that they wouldn't be incredible at what they're doing as well, but it's just this incredible gift that you have, and how everything kind of comes full circle and you just weave it and tie it all together. I mean, obviously listeners want to know the secret behind that, but I think it's just this organic thing that happens for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think really it's like anything else. It's just a lot of time and passion.
Yeah.
And play. I think the three of those things. Oh, and love. So there you go.
Yeah.
Time, passion, play, and love. And if you do anything, long enough with those four elements, eventually you just will arrive somewhere where you just know how to do it. And you're speaking in a unique voice because it's based on the time and the energy and the love that you've put in.
Right. So once upon a time, though, it was just you without a whole team.
Yeah, but I always had various people along the way that were really supportive of me, and I'm super grateful to that. I mean, I definitely didn't have any mentors in my life until much later, or not people that were older or more successful than me. I just had kind of communities that were mentors to me. But I didn't really start creating an infrastructure for myself until maybe 3.5 years ago. I was doing most of the business stuff on my own. And that was fucking stupid because I'm not a businessman. Or at least I had to learn how to be a business person, and that was a process. So it wasn't my strong suit,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's with a lot of people. We're not all good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always that transitional time, that period where it's like you are kind of wearing all of the hats to get things up and running, and then you start to really get better at delegating and hiring people and understanding the value behind having other people take care of that stuff and not you.
Right.
How do you keep yourself constantly learning and growing in terms of business, even if it's not you doing it, but in terms of just having the right people behind you?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, I don't know that I do anything specific. I think that my philosophy on business is similar to my philosophy on creativity at this point, which is that if I'm in a good place, then everything else will flow very easily. Mm-hmm. And if I'm in a bad place, then everything else is going to be difficult, or at least more difficult. And so I focus most of my energy on making sure that I'm growing and I'm balanced mentally and physically and spiritually and emotionally. And I find that when I'm balanced in that way, then business ideas come very easily and creative ideas come very easily. And then I'm able to express them and figure out a strategy to manifest them into reality by taking specific actions. So it's not like I, read a bunch of business books and try to figure it out that way. More just focus on myself, and then everything else just kind of happens on its own. It's a domino effect.
Yeah. So what are some of the big things coming up for the remainder of this year for you?
Oh, I can't even, honestly.
I know some you can't say.
No, I wasn't even. Yeah,
okay.
Wasn't even. So we're doing a huge show at the Ace Theater in downtown Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Which is 1,600 seats, and as far as I know, it'll be the biggest poetry show, at least in modern LA history.
Wow.
And we have like literally a 9-camera shoots, with a 30-foot crane, and we're going to be filming it and then trying to sell it as the first stand-up poetry special. Not stand-up in terms of like comedy, but just, it's going to be a poetry special that we're going to put out. So that's like very exciting. And I think a lot of the rest of the year is kind of gearing up towards that. I mean, there are so many shows in between and there's so much stuff going on, but that's definitely like a real big dream of mine. It's a beautiful, beautiful theater. It's like the Charlie Chaplin theater. Charlie Chaplin made it.
So cool.
But it like looks like it's something that Dolly made, and Dolly's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
And so I just have always loved that theater, and I always thought like, oh, it would be incredible to do a poetry show there. But I was like, there's no way that we could sell this out, and now it's happening. So that's really nice, and I think it's going to be a catalyst for a lot of big things.
So, and people can find out all about you on your website, where you are, where to see you perform, videos, things that you've done in the past.
Yeah, exactly. It's just in-q.com. In-Q is short for in question. So that's an easy way to remember it. So it's in-q.com, and I'm on social media and all of that good stuff. And, find me.
We'll have links to all of that good stuff on our blog post and show notes. You're just so rad.
You're so rad. What if that was just the rest of the interview? I was like, you're so rad.
No, you're so rad.
I was like, you're so rad. People were like, this sucks.
I totally want to put you on the spot and make you do like a 30-second poem for us right now.
Well, are you going to?
I want to, and so I will ask you. I'll at least ask. So I'm going to ask.
Sure. Let me find something.
Okay.
Find something simple. Freedom is scary, especially when you've been in prison your whole life. Often, people will do almost anything to return to the safety of confinement. That way, they don't have to worry about the future. But why worry about the future? You're going to be there. At a certain point, our boundaries become chains, and our chains become shackles, and our shackles become weights, and our weights become distractions. We're actually moving backwards. Our games become addictions, so our well-intentioned boundaries become glorious restrictions. It's gotten to the point where none of us can tell the fucking difference. Freedom is scary. So you pretend you have no fear. And the more that you pretend, the more imprisoned that I feel. But if everyone is lying, doesn't lying become real? They say the truth can set you free, but it can also get you killed. That's why we protect the prisons that we never knew we built. Because if we didn't hate the system, then we'd have to hate ourselves. But my mama gave birth to a free man. I'm unattached to the things that I believe in. Because freedom is scary. But scary can be fun. We're so scared of being scared that it's scaring everyone. That's it. Short and simple.
So awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I'm going to come see you soon.
Amazing. That sounds really good. And, much love to your whole audience and to you and to Draw Shop. And yeah, I appreciate you.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Okay, Summer.
Thank you for listening to today's Get Genius. You can learn more about The Draw Shop at www.thedrawshop.com, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Your home for kick-butt custom whiteboard marketing videos. Your ideas come to life. Thanks for listening. Please share, comment, and make any suggestions for future Genius guests.